Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today we're going to be doing a video response to another person in the writing community here on YouTube. Before we get started, I'm just stating my opinions because I've talked about generative AI from the very beginning. Usually, it's focused on visuals because that has been the first frontier of a lot of this, and then it's traveled more into music and voices and writing. And so I'm going to talk about and respond to somebody who considers it bullying to call out fraudulent behavior. And that is personally what I believe generative AI to be, whether it is writing, whether it is music, whether it is book covers, because you are taking from other people. And if you I'm not going to get into the whole background of where the generative AI data comes from because I've done countless videos on it. So if you want to see the history that I have on discussing this topic, then there will be a playlist at the end of this video for you to go ahead and click through. But I have studied and watched and listened to experts in the industry talking about this. And the fact that somebody offering an editing service is trying to say that it is bullying to call out what is considered fraudulent behavior is ridiculous. Like, you don't have to like what people say, but to call it bullying, if somebody calls out an auto shop that is selling junkers to 18-year-olds who don't know anything better, if you say that that is a bad business practice, you're not bullying them, okay? So you might not like that people don't like what you're doing, but if it's all about the Benjamins, then just keep saying that. And what I see is a lot of caustic behavior. It's always been a lot of caustic behavior. And so we're going to talk about No Nonsense Free editor and her more recent video, Authors, AI Book Covers, and Bullying, How Harassing Indie Authors Became Acceptable, which, what a loaded title. But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on this channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through Lemwy, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt, you write a short story using that prompt, and on the first Monday video of the month, we bask in your creativity because you guys are incredible. It is a very low stakes thing, just to kind of get the creative juices going, just to be fun. So don't expect like any hardcore feedback or critique or anything because it is just meant to be fun, have a good time, and like maybe experiment a little or maybe try writing for the first time, whatever. It's just chill. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you would like it featured here on the channel, submit your first chapter and your cover. It'll be read here to share with the audience to hopefully help more readers find your work because you've worked hard on it, assuming that you didn't do some of this shady business. And it deserves to be seen by the audience that are looking for it. So, and it's difficult to be discovered. And so that's what I try to do here on the channel is to hopefully help discoverability of indie authors. The third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books, including the local library upon request. With that said, let's get into it. Now, from the very beginning, I want to highlight a very key difference between this person and I. Now, there are a couple of different ways in which to approach writing. And one is as an art, as a means of expression, as a life calling, as something deeper that is not just gig work. And then the second is gig work. And there are different types of writers who approach characters, design, storytelling, everything in a very different way. And I am past the point of pretending that we are peers because for years I have given grace. Forever I have given grace and been like, you know what? We're just approaching this differently. And still, we're approaching this differently, but we're not peers. We're not going in with the same goal. We don't have the same respect for characters. And in the last week and a half, I've had like 4 to 5 different people approach me and insult me about my approach to characters. So congratulations on killing my grace, I guess. And because of that, this acknowledges that gig work is seen as trying to make a side hustle, seeing writing as a side hustle, the 20 to 50K people, the people who hire ghostwriters to fill a backlog, the people who trend chase to try to follow what makes the most money so that they can bounce in on that. That's what I'm talking about. I also understand that it is important to recognize this difference in our approach because from my approach, I'm going to see something wrong with this. From the approach of a gig worker who has zero respect for the audience, for the market, for the story, for the readers, for the arts, this is not going to mean anything. And so from the very beginning of this video, I want to acknowledge the people that do not see arts as important as anything other than the same thing as going to work for 40 hours a week and push a button. That's what it is. And so Like, we can't really have a discussion if we don't recognize that there are differences in approaching fiction, and that because of that difference, we are not going to be talking the same language, and we're going to run into situations where we do not understand each other. Because the no nonsense free editor views this work, I'm assuming, as work because she is an editor and offers editing services, then it is obviously going to be seen more as gig work and more clinically. With all that said, let's jump into the video.
I am acutely aware that $1,000 plus is a huge amount of money for a lot of people, not discounting that. But AI art isn't making publishing accessible to you. You're paying way more in the end. You're paying in reputation, opportunity, and the chance of success. Do you want to hire Felix Ortiz one day, or Azure Mazoa, excuse me if I mispronounced that, or Yam, or Swanland, or Lockwood, or any reputable artist? If they find out that you've got AI covers on your other books, good luck. Chances are you've excommunicated yourself. I can't think of a book talker who is going to work with you, nor any serious influencer who will want that on their Instagram page. You are sacrificing so much, and for what? To save $1,000, $1,500, plus a few total hours of your time? That doesn't math out. Pay an artist. Save yourself. I'm so sorry, darling. It sounded to me like you, a professional with industry contacts, was threatening to blackball independent authors for ever having used AI covers.
Okay, giving a warning is not a threat. If it says, hey, if you do a certain thing, you're going to get a certain reputation, that's not a threat. And I've seen this take a couple of times in the last couple of weeks that is such a disingenuous way to say, shut up, shut up, shut up. That's what that is. Now, if you told me that you kicked puppies, or if you were thinking about kicking puppies, and I said, bro, if you kick puppies, I'm not going to be your friend, that's not me threatening you. If you say that you are going to think about kicking puppies and making a YouTube channel of you kicking puppies because you think that it'll create outrage clicks, and I say, bro, if you do that, I'm going to tell all of our friends, all the people that we have in common, that you have a channel devoted to kicking puppies. And like, nobody's going to want to work with you because you have a channel made of kicking puppies. That's not me threatening you. There is this weird situation where people think that they can do and say anything and that there will be no consequences. And if you warn people that there might be consequences to actions, that you're somehow threatening them. It's just a warning. Or are people not allowed to choose who they want to associate with? Look, lady, I don't know anything about you. Your response to those tweets makes me think that you've never possibly investigated the reason why artists have the response that they do to generative AI covers, which is that they are being stolen from actively. And I say this because I have covered it so many times on this channel already. And you don't have to agree. You don't have to agree with their takes. You don't have to agree that they feel correct or that they are correct, because you can believe that you should get to print anything that you want and sell it however you want. However, if somebody says, if you knock off my stuff and then sell it, I don't want to talk to you, is not exploitation. It is not a threat. It is, you've knocked me off, so why should I have anything to do with you? I don't understand. Are people not allowed to choose who they want to interact with nowadays? Or is that like a problem? Also, the idea that covers are $1,000, I would just like to show this, okay? Her line edits are 0.15 cents per word. So if I were to actually have Bodymore be line edited by this person, it is about 157,000 words. So it would be about just over $2,000 to have this person line edit that work. If I wanted her to do a developmental editing, it would be almost $3,000, which is much more than it would cost for somebody to make a cover. Because we're also talking about art and artists that you could get across the world internationally at different prices, because the economy in different places varies greatly. So this idea that book covers cost $1,000 minimally is actually absurd. And we'll see if she actually covers that in this video. But the idea that, hey, if you do that behavior, people aren't going to want to interact with you is not a threat. And for some reason, why do you feel entitled to somebody else's contacts? I have made the determination that some of the things that I do on my channel, including this video, are going to make it so certain people do not want to interact with me, or do not want anything to do with me, or think poorly of me. And it's just the thing that I agree to when I make videos the way that I do. So if you feel like using a generative AI cover, knowing that people do not like it, and if you decide that you want to steal from artists and then you want to hire an artist later, and artists are like, no, because you exploited us, that's the choice that you made. That's the decision that you made, and you cannot escape the consequences of your actions. I'm sorry, but you don't have a right to somebody else's contacts because of this thing. And if you want those contacts, then you have to make up to the people who you hurt. That's just how it is. So to me, this just looks like insane entitlement of I should be able to do whatever I want. And if I can't, if you tell me that you're not going to do what I want you to do because I've hurt you in the past, well, then that's exploitation of me. What a victimhood complex.
Is that what I just heard come out your mouth? Yeah, I thought so. Come on and have a seat next to Auntie. I'll make you some tea. It's time we talked. Hello,
Oh my gosh, she is so snarky.
my fellow independently published authors. You brave souls who took one look at the traditional publishing apparatus, we'll call it, and said, no thank you to all of that. Actually, I don't really like the idea of some 22-year-old editorial assistant, probably with hair dyed an unnatural color, purple or blue.
So we're going to get into personal insults about people that you don't particularly like, or judging people based on physical appearance. I'm not going to make any judgments about you looking as a certain way as you do, as I'm not, I don't think that it's a great move to start slapping around stereotypes about people who have political differences than you as a reason for why you should be able to abuse other people. But if you think people with blue hair are reason enough for you to exploit people, then I'm not really surprised that you might look at any artist whatsoever and say, you know what, who cares what you think? I would rather exploit you because, who cares about your feelings? That's dehumanizing. That shows such little anything. Oh my gosh, that shows such little care and only self-interest. And I am so sick of so many business models being on dehumanizing somebody else and saying, you know what, it's okay for me to abuse you because I don't value your opinion, because I think that I can abuse you because of your political ideas, because of your assumed political ideas. Let me get, people make assumptions about the way that this chick looks, of who she is, how she believes. Even that statement about blue hair pretty much says a determination one way or another. Guess what? People make assumptions about me too, and pretty much every single one of them is wrong. But this is not a good start.
Perhaps looking at my manuscript, deciding that it doesn't quite vibe with her worldview, and regardless of its quality, throwing it away and saying, no thank you. Or worse, looking at you, author, and your unchangeable demographics and saying, actually, no, that's not really what I'm looking for right now. You looked at that and you
So she starts out this video by trying to victimize the person that she's talking to say that you are fighting an uphill battle that nobody could win if you just kept trying. So you know what? You decided to check out. I'm on your side. I understand your plight. That is an appeal to emotion to try to get you on her side, to know that she is on your side. So what she is about to do is tell you how to undermine the people that you both hate.
said, no, I'm going to make my own way. I'm not going to tolerate these gatekeeping people. I'm going to go directly to the readers who I know will like my book. And then there's this whole community around you, and they're there to support you because they're doing the same thing. Authors, artists, audiobook narrators, all of these people are in the same boat as you. They want to go directly to the readers and skip the gatekeepers. But then a funny thing happened. People started getting successful. People started getting the idea that because they were successful that, hey, look at me, I'm the captain now. That they get to set some rules. This last week on Twitter, we had the obscene spectacle of an author and publisher presuming to tell authors, many of whom make less than $5 a month in royalties from their books.
Excuse me. That doesn't matter. Because you are poor, it does not excuse crime. It does not excuse theft. It does not excuse abuse. It does not excuse fraud. So the idea that you're going to, look, it's this big time publisher. It is an independent, just like this other person. So this current argument is dishonest in its setting up this power structure by also going, oh, somebody found some success. And so they've decided that they could make some rules. Guess what? Everybody has been opened up to this structure of independence because of the way that the internet is. YouTube opened up to random people on the internet to be able to have an opinion, to stand on the same website as celebrities who have built themselves in the industry. So you're basically on here with a bunch of other celebrities and get to have an equal voice as long as you can get found. But that also means that over the years, independent creators have also been in charge of policing their own community to make sure, or to try to make sure, that bad things or illicit behavior or really bad behavior doesn't spread around. Because we're independent, we're actually peers with one another. So we have to talk to one another about business practices. Whether somebody is, if somebody is independent, if somebody calls himself independent, the behavior of somebody who is an independent indie author is going to affect everybody of the same title, because that's just how it is, as we are seen as peers. This is one of the reasons why at the moment I have decided not to consider myself a peer with two market writers, because we are very different, because your goal is different than my goal, because I have been insulted and spit on in the face so much by people who see books as tools and gig works that I just can't tolerate it anymore, as pretending that we're the same, because you obviously don't. Now, setting it up in this way of going, well, this person found some success and now thinks that they can create rules for everybody else. we're critiquing your behavior. I have not found any success. I would fall into the bundle of people that you have just said makes less than $5 in royalties a month. However, I'm still commenting on this. So don't come at me with that.
What they are required to do to earn his seal of approval. And if you run afoul of that seal of approval, well, he just might have a talk with literally all of the influencers that he knows and make sure even if you start taking off as an author, well, you're just not going to have access to certain things. Because
that's not what he said at all. What was stated was that people are going to see that you defrauded artists. And so then artists who have been very vocal about not liking the generative AI are possibly going to refuse to work with you because you have violated one of their important rules. Not that he is going to talk to people, but if people see how you behave, they might not want anything to do with you. And this is something that I've also seen more recently in watching some other comments from other opiners who openly insult people, who make their entire channel about openly insulting, belittling, bragging about actually being sexist, and then being like, well, why doesn't anybody want to be friends with me? Why doesn't anybody want me to come to their conventions? Is it just because everybody hates my politics and everybody just hates me because I'm a white man? If you do bad things, then certain people may not want to interact with you. And that's just how it is. It is not a threat. Are we really so far out here that people are like, I should be able to act however I want, and if you give a warning, then it's a threat? Look, if somebody says, hey, if you get pregnant as a teenager, then you're probably going to struggle as an adult. You might not get job opportunities. You might drop out of university or a high school. That's not a threat. That's a warning. So why are we pretending that warnings are that?
because he says so, and he makes the rules around here, apparently. Let's go through exactly what he said.
Okay, why are you only paying attention? She got crazy face here. Why are you only thinking that he is the one to say this? Or have you not looked into what other people are saying about this situation? Not that he is telling you to behave his rules, but this has been the common zeitgeist amongst a lot of people, that if you look at what artists are saying, this is what they are saying. Is that not crossing the mind here?
Authors using AI art on your covers. You're cutting off your own leg. I'm not even talking about the accusations of thief.
Web scraping is theft. This is insane. She doesn't know what she's talking about, and she is justifying the fraud. She's justifying the theft and the defrauding of artists. Talk to some artists before you do this.
That you're going to get. Let's set that aside. I'm talking about the price you're paying in reputation and marketability to save maybe $1,000. Pause, mother. My artist doesn't use AI. He uses stock photography, and of course those photographers are paid for the photos that he uses, as it should be. No cover has ever cost me $1,000. Ever. The majority of authors...
Yeah, no cover has ever cost $1,000, so there's no reason to use a generative AI to save money and say it costs $1,000.
Don't pay $1,000. Quick question. If we're only paying $350 for all of our book covers combined, because our artist lives in a low cost of living country, hypothetically, do we get blackballed for that too? Are we stealing work from American artists?
Okay, so she is openly talking about using art from other countries that are made by hand by those people. So this tells me exactly that she does not understand where the information, where the data scraping actually comes from, and that artists are being stolen from. Okay, look over here. We're going over here to, so let's say, fantasy artist, right? Artists don't use AI because we don't want to build a career and literally steal from the hard work of our peers. It's unethical. It's not about losing jobs. It's about respect. You can pump out all the AI slop that you want, but something that you'll never have is artists' respect. And you come down here to AI Emerald Apple saying the anti-AI artist thought that AI art was going to be just a fad, and yet more tools just keep popping up and getting better. Instead of using it to showcase their creativity, they castigate it because they are afraid that it will take away their livelihoods. Stuff like this is just mind-blowing, but what's really mind-blowing is that by next year, we'll have the tools that are even more insane than this, limited only by our imaginations. AI democratized art, and that's all that there is. So if she is going to openly say that you can look at these other countries that have different costs of living, that make it very, very affordable to get man-made art, that get individual art, that actually allows the artists to be paid, and then instead defend generative AI covers that steal and scrape the art from those people that she is currently defending and then trying to use as a scapegoat for her theft, for the defense of theft. These are two completely different things. Nobody is saying anything about hiring somebody for their labor from other countries. However, generative AI, which is owned by these tech companies that have scraped data that they did not have the consent of the artists to use, that did not have the consent of the individuals to use, including your pictures on Meta and Facebook and Instagram, that's not the same thing. Going over here to Brian Merchant, it has been standard to describe AI as a tool. I argue that framing is incorrect. It does not aid in the completion of a task. It completes the task for you. AI is a service. You cede control and decisions to an AI in the way that you might to an independent contractor hired to do a job that you do not want or are unable to do. This is important to how using AI in a creative workflow will influence your end result. You are at best taking on a collaborator, and this collaborator happens to be a mindless average aggregate of data. Where does that data come from? We got this situation over here with Reed Southern responding to the information from OpenAI's engineer, responding to highlighting information from OpenAI's engineer James Becker, openly stating that AI models are their data sets, which is the information scraped from every single website that people purchased, that these guys purchased the data from, whether you gave your permission or not to it. What this manifests as is, trained on the same data set for long enough, pretty much every model with enough weights and training time converges to the same point. Sufficiently large diffusion convolvents produce the same images as VIT generators. AR sampling produces the same images as diffusion. This is a surprising observation. It implies that the model behavior is not determined by architecture, hyperparameters, or optimizer choices. It is determined by your data set and nothing else. Everything else is a means to an end in efficiently delivery compute to approximating that data set. Then, when you refer to Lambda, ChatGPT, Bard, Cloud, then it's not the model's weight that you are referring to, it is the data set. So, no, you're trying to compare, and then this makes me wonder if the no-nonsense editor believes that humans and generative AI are the same, which they're not. Their brain computations do not work the same. A data set is scraped of information that was... I'm not going to go over this again. You're going to have to watch previous videos where I've talked about how generative AI works if you want to get the lowdown on that again. Finally, I'm going to also bring up Katria here as having shared this message saying one's stance on AI art is more of a political statement than it is a logical response to reality, which I can see this being applicable to the original video, as she started out by identifying a political opponent through blue hair. She may not have said what the political identification is, but everybody knows what that is shorthand for after 15 years of this freaking game. Just as there were many physicians who died believing that hand washing was bad post to the introduction of the concept by Ignaz Semmelweis in 1847, anti-AI doomers are the anti-hand washers of our era. If you are a working artist, you either already are using AI unintentionally or not, or soon will be. It will never disappear, but the market for artists who don't use AI, like the market for doctors who don't wash their hands, is only going to get smaller. It's insane to say, look, you need, it always comes back to adapt or die, doesn't it? It's insane the levels that these people will go to dehumanize and blame the victims of their own crimes. So I don't understand why she is going to sit here and defend theft from these third world countries that she is currently saying that she outsources the jobs to anyway, and then just give the money at a discount to Silicon Valley, because that's what you're saying.
I just want to know, what the rules are, since you set them. Let's continue. First, there's a straightforward...
That just pisses me off. She's trying to scapegoat her bad intentions by using a completely different situation.
One you should be aware of. There are a lot of people who will pass over books with AI covers on principle. 99% of artists out there, and there are a lot, and their friends and family. Most authors and many of their readers who are made aware of how they feel. Anyone who thinks that AI is lazy and shoddy work, and anyone who sees the imperfections in an AI cover and loses interest because of it. So there's a not insignificant portion of the market you are cutting yourself out of right there. Before we continue, this is unambiguously true. I posted my most recent Substack on Facebook. The image I used to advertise the Substack article was an AI image because, I'm so sorry, are you going to tell me there's stock footage with this particular feel to it? No, sir, there's not. So I used an AI image. In no world would I have been paying an artist to create this for me for a social media post. But if you look down at the comments, some jackass who did not click and read the article wanted to tell me all about, using AI art. Shut up. Just shut up. He's not going to click on the article. He's not going to buy your book anyway, because this...
First of all, clearly she has no idea what she's talking about, because the purpose of your thumbnail is the same reason that you would get a cover. It's to sell your article. It's to get people interested in your article. So the person that may have read your article would have read it if you had a correct thumbnail, if you had an accurate thumbnail. So what it actually did is discourage a customer from paying attention to you, or somebody from paying attention to your ideas, because you put zero effort into your ideas. And not only that, but because you use generative AI, you actually discouraged a customer from looking into what you've said, period. So that's how you excuse it, because you've determined that you hate all of these people that don't like what you're doing. Look, I look into a lot of different books, and I will not pick up a book that is generative AI on the cover. And when I did, I have blacklisted that author. I'm never going to buy from them again. I'm never going to buy from their peers. There are a couple of them. Ben Farthing is one of them. Matt Shaw is another one. I will never buy the books of somebody who uses generative AI covers. I'm never going to buy your services because I also can't trust what your services even are. Going back to her website, by the way, so she not only offers book editing, but she also offers book writing. One of them is ghostwriting with stated no AI, and the other one is AI assisted ghostwriting, and you are getting it in 7 to 10 days. Now tell me that that is a good product. Tell me that that is something worth selling. It's gig work. It's just a product that doesn't mean anything. And what it tells me is that you do not respect artists. You do not respect other writers. You do not respect the readers or the audiences that will receive your books, because all you see are pay pigs to pay you for your services. And this is again why I will not recognize to market writers or people that see it as gig work as peers, because you do not have respect for the readers, for the art. And then you're going to end up with somebody like in this video where she says, shut up. Okay, so you want to be sassy and put your points out there, put your version out there, but you're not going to take any critique, any criticism. To see anybody saying, hey, this isn't good, we don't want this. People obviously care. And you're sitting here saying, well, people don't really care. And when they do care, it's just bullying. Excuse me.
This guy doesn't do anything with his day except scroll social media and complain. That's who he is, and that's not your customer. Let's continue.
That's not your customer? Dude, I find so many books via social media, so that's a lie.
Second is your reputation. Going along with the above, 99% of the authors I know do not want to be associated with AI, whether that be art on the cover or text in the book. You won't catch us using it, and you won't catch us making buddy-buddy with people who use it.
So another thing on that previous point that I forgot to mention before is that if your cover contains generative AI, how am I supposed to know that your book does not contain generative AI? If you didn't find your book worthy enough of actually working on it, why should I read it? Because a lot of people who apparently use generative AI to create books like this don't find the book worthy to be worked on, but somehow you're supposed to want to pay them to read words that they couldn't even be bothered to write. And I still am not a fan of ghostwriters either. Like, that's your own job, that's your own whatever. I'm not going to use them. Ghostwriters are their own thing. But I don't find value in that because I don't read product. But that is what you're creating. Let's not pretend that there is not an influx of fraudulent work, of people who we've seen the program. So, like, by the way, you don't even need to hire her for her AI ghostwriting if that's really what you want, because there are programs out there that have been introduced. You can find them by scrolling social media where she just insulted it. You can find these programs by scrolling social media and then see that, oh, look, it's a one-stop shop where it will put a cover on the same book that it just generative AI wrote, and then it'll upload it to Kindle Shop all in one go. You don't even need this step of this if that's really what you want to do. And so that's another reason why people are avoiding generative AI covers, because it's become a hotbed for frauds. What you're really doing is shooting yourself in the foot. If you have a book that you've worked your heart and soul and blood in and you put your life into, do you really want to ruin the reputation of your book by putting a generative AI cover on it, which is then going to be up in the marketplace next to all of the other books that were just push a button and then upload to the website in order to try to trick people into buying these generative books as fast as they could get them out there to create an income? Because that's what you're doing. You are lowering your book from the standards of making it unique and making it blend in with the scam books. And is that something that she's going to talk about, or is she only looking at it as a threat? Because that's not a threat. I'm looking at your book as a scam, as not being worth reading.
First of all, the text of the book using AI and the cover using AI are not the same thing. Do not conflate them.
No, they can be conflated, because why the frick should I trust you? You have broken the trust already. Explain to me, instead of waving your fingers around, explain to me without swinging your finger around why somebody who does not know you should trust that you are going to tell them a good story. That's another thing that the cover does. The cover of a book promises a feel or a mood of the story, and that the author spent time on the story. And so a message that is being sent, whether you want to agree with it or not, a message that is being sent by a generative AI cover is that the author did not spend time on this, that the author does not care, that this is a throwaway. At least that's for me. And the comments on this section, the comments on this video are free to say what they want to say about generative AI covers. And I'm sure in the comments for this video, there are going to be plenty that say that they don't mind generative AI covers, which they can go ahead and buy what they want to buy, spend their money where what they want to spend their money on. But somebody telling you that there are many people who do not agree with generative AI covers and to judge AI covers are not trying to threaten you. They're trying to warn you that if you care about your product, if you care about your story, you should probably not do this because you're going to scare off a bunch of readers who do not agree with doing this and who judge books by their covers. And then you're just being sassy and rude and arrogant when somebody is saying, we care about this.
All, you disingenuous twat. People buy a book for the content of the book.
No, people buy books for the covers. Go and look at Reads with Rachel's study on what her audience does with book covers. And the majority of them say they do not pick up covers. They do not pick up generative AI covers. At this point in the video, I don't know if this person is being disingenuous or if she is just uneducated on the subject, but people do often buy books by the covers, especially if the author is unknown. You have much more, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, the realist in this, but if you are a no-name indie author, you have much more to prove to a reader to get their time than somebody who is published through a publishing house, because the publishing house has the benefit of having the weight behind their name. You, as an unknown, have to prove to a reader that they're not wasting their time or their money with your book, and your cover is your first impression. So why something that people do not like to make your first impression? Not to mention, I want to pose this question. Who does the generative AI cover benefit? It's not the reader, because the only one who is not paying for the cover is the author, and that is to maximize the profits of the author. So why would any audience member, any potential reader, see a generative AI cover as a good thing? Because what's it promising the reader? To say that a cover does not inspire the reason why a reader might pick up a book is just insane.
They do not buy a book for the cover. The cover gets them to click. What gets them to love or hate a book is the actual content of the book. So I'm so sorry. AI generated text is not the same thing for a book purchaser as is an AI image on the cover.
No, I see why she needed to create a generative AI garbage piece of an angry author, because she's kind of lost. She's kind of hysterical about this. And I know that I was passionate a little bit ago. I understand. But if her response to people don't want to buy a book because of a generative AI cover is fuck you, there's no argument here. You're just angry that people do not want what you are buying. This is not an argument. This is an emotional response to somebody saying that your business practices are bad, that people aren't going to want to work with you. And in some years, when your stuff is out there and you're not as successful as you thought you were going to be, you're going to be blaming other people when they had warned you that this would sink your book.
Also applies to your reputation among artists. I already read this one, so I'm just going to summarize it. Basically, he's saying you're not allowed to work with the big muckety mucks in the art world. And if you're a fantasy author, yeah, that's a problem.
That's not what he is saying. He's saying that people are not going to want to work with you because you have abused artistry. I highly recommend, if this person or any of her fans that have come to see this would like to see how artists have responded, like actual industry artists have responded to this, do check out Reed Southern. He is a 15-year industry veteran who has worked on movies. He did a video on his YouTube channel that was a response to Shad Brooks's love letter to generative AI, talking about all of the issues with this. And his feed is continuous with different issues happening in the creative industry regarding generative AI and why so many artists have a problem with it. But it'll always come back to this, where many artists believe that it is fraud. Many artists, and if you're not part of the art community, maybe you don't know this, but if you trace somebody else's art and then sell it, that's seen as a faux pas. That's seen as a bad practice. If you print off somebody else's work from Pinterest and try to sell it as your own, that is also considered wrong. And so the majority of people see generative AI for what it is, which is scraping individual artworks and then reselling it to people as a data laundering. And that was also a part of a previous video discussion. And so if you don't know that, that is why so many people have a problem with it. It is not threatening you that you cannot work with these industry people. It is telling you that a lot of industry people in general have openly expressed a dislike and a hatred and disgust toward a generative AI. And I even remember at the start of all of this, when previously I had said I was a robot because of a way that I view myself. And I changed that because when I tried to interact with artists, they would say, hey, are you a scraper? Are you an AI person? This was a year and a half ago, back when it was first starting in 2022, because they didn't want their artwork stolen. So, what is actually being asked for by artists is that you respect their work. This would be no different than if somebody took your book, scraped the information from it, and then put it into an AI machine to re-scramble it and then re-uploaded it as their own. That is the problem. Is the artists do not feel like this is being respectful of their work, of their labor, of their identity. It is taking it for personal gain only. Now, can you respond to that with something more than fuck you and this is a threat?
Because the other artists that he is mentioning here, their work is second to none, and AI cannot replicate this beauty, this style, and the uniqueness of it. He's right. He, yes he is worth $1,000 or more. They deserve every penny of it. And if you're in the genres that they work with, if you have $1,000 or more, yes, it's worth it. Yes, the problem is that not everybody is at that level, and he's disingenuously pretending that we are. But here's the third and most important thing I don't think you're thinking about: your marketability. Having the support of the writing community is almost essential when it comes to getting a book off the ground. The retweets, the newsletter shares, shoutouts, YouTube mentions, etc. 99% of that goes away the moment it becomes public knowledge that you use AI and that you steal.
Using AI is theft. I would like this person to go and talk to artists and explain to them how it is not theft. Because what it seems like is she is not taking into consideration any of what artists think. She is just saying it's not theft. It is. That is what the main argument is, and has been, by the way, for years. And I should know this because I always have guys in my comments saying, oh, no, it's not theft. Pretty much every artist defines it as theft. And you may disagree with that, but that is why artists will not want to work with you, because they do see it as theft. And even if you do not, because they do, they will not work with you. Okay, that is what part of this is understanding where the other perspective is coming from. You might not find a certain thing to be insulting, but if the other person does find that thing to be insulting, then you're typically not going to do it, right? If you go to another country and you're going to observe their cultural expectations, their cultural norms, you're going to try not to do the things that are offensive to them, or else they're not going to be very welcoming of you. Is that blackballing you from a country, or is that blackballing you from a country, or is that just the response that you get when you violate the beliefs and opinions or the culture of somebody else? So whether you agree if generative AI is theft or not, when you're interacting with people who believe that they have been stolen from, if you tell them that their feelings are ridiculous, that they have not been stolen from, that they should be happy that they are even being hired at all, that they should go and get a real job because they are blessed if they get a side gig doing commissions, they're not going to want to work with you. Is there a way to have this conversation that has to do more with understanding that other people may not want to agree with you? And I get it, because people that agree with her are going to be fine working with her. You see it in the comments. There are going to be people that agree with her, but there are going to be people like me that say, I don't like your perspective, so I'm not going to want to work with you. Not only that, but because she is so, one, adamant, and then two, insulting in the way that she responds, I would not want to work with her, because I can't trust her. She's disrespectful. She's disingenuous. And she looks like when she gets mad, she gets emotional and starts name calling. So I don't want to work with this person. And I bet from this video, she doesn't work with me. And to be frank, I don't care, because I value storytelling, artwork, the hard work that goes behind the practice, and the audience, communicating with the audiences and readers with something that is genuine, much more than I care about connections. And that's one of the reasons why I went indie, because I don't care about people like this. I don't care about conformity, and I don't care about our morals not matching up. I'm just not going to work with her. And what she's doing is she's making a personal moral argument that generative AI is not wrong, and thus whatever. Okay. But people are not going to want to work with you for that.
Steal from fellow creators in order to try to gain some tiny advantage for yourself. Few authors are going to retweet you. No YouTuber is going to mention your book or cover. Again, he's not entirely wrong there. And that was part of the whole reason I wrote that Substack article with the AI image. Because there are a lot of hysterical lunatics out there who don't understand how LLMs work that will behave like this.
No, that's what she says, is they don't know how it's going so that she can justify her abuse. Something else I'd like to add to this is that I disqualify anything generative AI from my feature on this channel because I do not respect the practice. It has nothing to do with VS hysterics, and it has everything to do with disagreeing with the practice of theft. But she doesn't seem to be able to understand that, and I pretty much assume that she is not going to want to work with me or trust me with anything when I have these opinions of her. So it's really not that different, but she wants to call any sort of disagreement some sort of hysterical emotional reaction so she can try and justify her victimhood. But that's not what it is. You've made a decision. A lot of people take a moral stance against this because they do see it as theft, whether you do or not. And so then you have to live with the consequences of that action, which is going to be a lot of people do not want to include you, myself included. So good luck with your future if that's what you're going to do, but I don't respect what you're doing.
They will one-star bomb your book. They will go on a hate campaign. They will follow you to all of your social media accounts and bitch at you because you're stealing. So gather.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I just said it, so I don't want to say it again too much. You can believe that it's not stealing, but if people believe that it's stealing, they will tell you. I don't think that blue hair is a problem, but you decided that you needed to bring blue hair up at the beginning of this video. You prejudged a bunch of people because of that. Blue hair. What about people that don't fit that? The fact that you mock the idea that people feel like they can be stolen from and that it is dismissed is going to make people not want to work with you. And then you make excuses as to why it's okay to do this by saying it's not really happening. That's gaslighting. Not to use psychological terms. That's like the people going, look, I don't think that women should actually be able to have any jobs, and I don't think that women can actually write anything. They should just be barefoot in the kitchen, having babies and making sandwiches all the time. Like, and then people don't want to work with me because I say that all women are useless and they don't want to have babies and they're basically just cusps of worthless nothingness. And then they call me sexist. Honey, that's not sexism. That's reality. And then they go, but people are hating me because of my perspective, because of my political beliefs. If people don't want to work with you because they don't like what you stand for, that just is what it is. But I don't see anything metered or reasonable about this video. This is just an angry video response with emotional outrage, and she is mean to the people that she disagrees with. She doesn't have anything on here except you don't know what you're talking about, which is very typical of the responses that I've gotten on all of my generative AI videos. And it's not just the AI videos. It's also Sam Fenna's and sometimes Will Jordan's, but also especially Shad Brooks's. The go-to thing for anything where people disagree with you is to just call you ignorant, because then they don't have to address anything that you say in any actuality. If they just pretend that you're an idiot that doesn't know anything, that didn't actually present anything to talk about, then they don't have to address it. And that's what she's doing.
Other round, my darlings, let's talk about how LLMs work. First, let's talk about the copying thing, because you're going to throw up all these examples on the screen. Okay, well, look at this. How do you explain this? It's stealing, right? Yes, it is, but it's not the machine who stole it. Let me explain to you how these images get made. A person.
So she just said that it is stolen, but the machine didn't steal it. Okay, yeah, because people fed it in there. So then you used the thing. Insanity.
Takes a copyrighted image, loads it up into the LLM, and says, change this 25%, or make the butt bigger, as the whole Fallout thing happened. These are humans stealing copyrighted images. These are humans instructing a machine to make adjustments to that copyrighted image. It is stealing. Yes, it is. And if you're doing this, you are stealing and you are wrong. However, typing in a prompt over and over and over again, using only your words, is not stealing.
Yes, it is, because it's using that same data. I don't understand how you can have this level of cognitive dissonance or dishonesty where you go, look, that thing is made up of stolen images. And if you just tell the thing to reach into the stolen images and then give you what you want, then it doesn't count as a stolen image because you didn't feed it a stolen image. You're still violating copyright. Please look into this. As an example,
I've seen a lot of my friends just suffering because their work is so prominent and they struggled for 10 years or more trying to get their style just to see someone else wearing their face and parading it, right?
There is nothing stopping AI companies from taking whatever you own from the internet, downloading it, and putting it into their training model. Nothing, really.
We're putting the whole creative future of humanity at risk here.
In the last couple of weeks, I spoke to many amazing artists and scientists about my mixed feelings of generative AI. Join me to hear their thoughts, my advice to creators, and predictions on what's to come. I will be perfectly honest with you. I am equally fascinated and terrified by generative AI. As a graphic designer, illustrator, and educator, I try to stay on top of any new technology and tool that helps self-expression and creativity.
this is one thing that a lot of the generative AI defenders pretend doesn't exist with artists staying on top of technology that can help them do what they want to do. And instead you get these people that are calling it a tool when it's not a tool and it is theft. Another way to look at what she is saying, imagine that Amazon decided that it was going to take all of your stuff and then put it in a warehouse, and then people could come and take that stuff for free. Well, you're not technically stealing from the people that Amazon stole from. So if you go in and just take that stuff, like, you're not the bad person. You are taking advantage of that thing where you know that it's all stolen goods, but you see where your benefit is. So you ignore the improprieties of the company that is committing that against somebody else. I will actually post a video of AI versus artists, the biggest art heist in history, down in the comments below. And I will also be on my community tab because I highly recommend that if you're watching this video and haven't watched that yet, you definitely should, at least to hear from artists, because this woman is not an artist. And I don't feel comfortable with her speaking for artists in order to make money.
A machine learning model is exactly the same way as humans learn.
No.
So if you sit
Incorrect. A human does not learn like a generative AI model. And that is just going to be an area where there's no coming back from if we start out with that basis of complete difference.
people down and you give them 4 novels, say they're all by Jane Austen. They read these 4 Jane Austen novels and then you say, okay, Samantha, write a book. Samantha, having only read these 4 Jane Austen novels, her style, we can assume, will be heavily influenced by Jane Austen. She's
Wrong. Actually, if you give 4 people, if you give 4 people 4 Jane Austen novels, they all read the same novels and then are told to write something different, they're going to come up with something completely different. However, if you give a generative AI 4 Jane Austen novels and then you tell it to write a novel, it's going to write exactly like Jane Austen because it doesn't have experience, it doesn't have its own voice, it doesn't have anything but what was fed into it. However, a human is going to bring their own experiences, understandings, differences. You give those 4 people, you get those 4 people to describe to you what happened in those Jane Austen novels, and they're likely going to come up with completely different answers as well, because that's how it works. People and computer programs are not the same thing. That is so insane. And to pretend that there is no human element to writing, this shows me really just how clinical she is in her approach to writing and or editing, that she doesn't see a human difference between her writers, which is honestly pretty sad. I've never read 2 novels that sound exactly the same.
creating something original, but it's very similar to Jane Austen. Why? Because that's how she...
You can't just copy. Oh my gosh. People do not just read Jane Austen and then by osmosis absorb the abilities to write like Jane Austen. This is actually really insulting to writers because it acts like there is no skill behind learning how to write, learning how to put a story together, learning how to sentence structure, learning how to structure sentence, learning how to edit and do individual beautiful sentences and create characters and create themes. It's like you read a Jane Austen novel and then obviously you just understand everything about it and you can just write on the page. Does she really think that about writing? Does she really think writing is such a lowly skill that somebody can just read Where Wild Things Are? Now suddenly they can be the best children's book writer ever in existence?
She learned to write. A machine learns exactly that same way. They have
Wrong.
a much bigger data source, but that, at the end of the day, is how they get made.
Wrong.
They are not stealing artists' work. They are learning from artists' work and generating something original based on what they learned.
Wrong.
That's how that works. The same as with text, which is why, yeah, I mean, some of it's passable, but it's not good though, is it? Because it's a machine. It's soulless. It doesn't have creativity.
Because it doesn't understand what it is doing. It follows patterns. It does not think. When a human is writing or when a human is drawing, when a human is creating, they are making decisions based on ability and understanding and nuance and expressions and emotions. Like I can take my books and tell you the choices that I made as I went. A machine cannot, because it does not have the human experience or the struggles to try to do something. If I am drawing, an exact example of this. If I am drawing or was drawing as a kid and I didn't want to draw the hands because I suck at drawing hands. Hands are so difficult to draw. You freaking hide the hands. You put them in the pockets, you put them behind the back, you put them under your little... Those are creative decisions made by an artist or a learning artist in order to avoid doing something. A machine is not going to avoid that. It's not going to make any creative decisions to avoid or you put mittens. Mittens is also a good one. The program is not going to make those creative decisions. It's going to try to imitate what it has been told to do, which is copy what a hand looks like to the best of its abilities, of what it recognizes a hand as. Now, if you fed that machine half of its data set of hands were actually pictures of cats and it cataloged hands as cats, then your hands on your drawings are going to end up being half hand, half cat chimeras. That's how that works. They do not think the same way.
It can only look at a finished product and create other finished product based on what it saw. It has no insight into the creative or tweaking process. It doesn't understand. An additional thing you need to be aware of is that a lot of systems, including the one I use, which is the Microsoft Bing generator, it uses DALL-E 3, but it has a lot of safeguards built into it. Authors who create AI book covers do it for one reason.
Yeah, to make money and to stop paying somebody else for their work, which means you shouldn't be paid for your work, quite honestly.
Because they can't afford a book artist. For me, I don't have any difficulty shelling.
Didn't you just say earlier in this video that you were paying somebody in a third world or a world Didn't you say earlier in this video that you were paying somebody in a different country who has a lower level economy, so it doesn't cost as much to make a book cover? So then why can't other people do that?
Out $350 to my artist for him to make me a custom book cover and social media images. I appreciate his work. I appreciate the way he does visual composition. I have no talent with visual composition. Let it be known. I'm not an artist. I suck at it. I can't even make social media images. I have to use templates a lot. It's not my skill. But there are people who do have this composition ability, and they have the patience and the time to sit there and endlessly prompt an AI machine until they get the book cover they want. They
No.
have the time to do this. They have the skill to recognize quality when they see it. What they don't have is $350 to give to an artist. They also don't have $1,000 or $1,500 or $3,000 to give you, sir. And they probably never will. Author Ryan Williamson had some pretty harsh words for this guy, and I gotta say, I gave him a standing ovation. He quotes Bryce, "To save $1,000, half of all indie authors make $5 or less a month. The vast majority who make more than that still make less than $50 a month. Tell me how a $1,000 cover is in any way a smart business decision." Of course, Bryce and his little
Tell me how getting editing is a smart business decision. Like, why should anybody bother editing their book? Why should any indie author ever bother getting their book edited? Because, like, they don't got the money to give to your editing service. So just like throw that stuff out there, unedited, full of typos, don't even bother because there's no money to give you. How dare you ask for thousands of dollars for editing from indie authors that don't have that kind of money? Not gonna lie, part of this also sounds like she's saying, look, these guys are losers. They're poor. They're never gonna make it. Their stories are never gonna make it. So how dare you ask anybody to invest in their story? Because, like, this is just a pet project that's not gonna mean anything in a couple of years anyway. So, like, why should they put a good cover on it? This feels so much like she's already announcing everybody who does this to be a failure. And I don't understand the point.
fanboys had no answer for that. They just kept spurging out, "It's theft, hire a real artist, have a real artist." Okay, well, Ryan had an answer for that too, specifically targeting people who could not afford a good artist. You can hire a real artist for next to nothing. Some will even work for free. Why would you even consider using the soulless, flat, vacant shit AI vomits out for your book cover? Y'all see that, right? Y'all see that? Are you going to tell me it's better to go onto Fiverr with the $150 you have to spare and have that abomination made?
No. Don't even with this straw man. You need to search around for artists. You need to search around for somebody who can fit your budget and your style. And this is one of the reasons why artists may not want to work with you, because when you are just completely disrespectful to what they are, who they are, their entire career, their entire livelihood, and you're like, look at this POS over here. They are just learning. I've had that happen too. I've been sharing my journey of learning how to draw and all of the crappy images that come with it. And people that don't like my AI takes try to use my skill level as something against me when I'm not selling my art. I'm not trying to sell my art. I'm trying to learn a skill. And so you can find people of different skill levels doing different types of art. But if you just straight up insult artists, all artists say that it's okay to steal from artists and then try to go after baby artists who are just learning how to draw, or people who you don't think are good enough, you're going to alienate yourself from artists due to your lack of respect, and you're wiping your butt with their livelihoods, with their careers, with their passions, in the same way that I'm not going to work with you ever now because you think so lowly of writers. You can just read any single book and suddenly you know how to write a book.
By a real human versus just going and getting AI. Are you going to tell me that? Get that. No, sir. I'm so sorry. The entitlement is what drove me over the edge watching this.
You call it entitlement for people to want to defend their work while you are saying you are entitled to taking other people's work. That's a joke. I did want to go back to the Ryan Williamson tweet and add a couple of extra things to this conversation, because there were a lot of things that bothered me about this. The level of dishonesty, the level of aggression, the level of shit talking that is totally unnecessary. And you ask why artists might not want to work with you, and then you sit here for 20 minutes insulting artists constantly. So we're going to go to this tweet specifically where he's got the two images of these people. This one on the left is clearly not actually an attempt to be a book cover. So to set these up and say that this is actually trying to be a book cover and who would ever consider using it is dishonest. This has a background. This has development. What is this? And if you pretend that you can't get something nice for less than $350, let me give you a couple of examples. Right here is Gabriel V. Rodriguez in his commissions. These are the different styles that he has got going, with the most expensive being a full body painting at 90 euros. I'm pretty sure in most cases, if you're dealing with commercial usage, then you're going to have to pay a commercial license, but that's something that you can work out with everybody that you do comms with. And just because you're doing a cover, obviously, like when you go back over here, it doesn't have to be designed to be a cover. You can get a good commission of some type of art that represents your story and then use that. Another one is going to be this right here for commission info and Lord M. And they specifically list any commercial uses, which is going to be your cover. That is going to be something that you discuss with them. Right here, you got prices: $80 for a portrait, $140 for a half body, $180 for a full body. A background is another $50 to $100 dollars, and then you've got additional costs for additional characters. Looks like they're very skilled. Here's another one with Lord M showing his $140 commissions with a picture of Asterion. And then you got over here with Xeon Art, and these are commissioned characters. I don't see their prices listed on their website, so that'd be something that you have to ask them about in order to get an accurate pricing. But I'm telling you, there are affordable prices all over. If you start looking at the commissions and the artists on Twitter, you're going to start finding pretty much all of them. And you're going to Portfolio Day is another good day to start sourcing different people, because there are so many artists all over the world working with open commissions to try to make ends meet for themselves as well. And what you're doing when you use generative AI is you are taking the opportunities away from actual people who create these arts and giving it to Silicon Valley, who stole the arts. It is stolen valor at worst. And that is why artists have a problem with it. So by telling artists that they should be working for free or working for $40 so that you can get something with all of the heavenly details because you think that you deserve it for days, if not weeks of their time, is insanity. And that's what this is. She goes to the very end of this video and then starts talking about entitlement, when the only entitlement that I see here is people thinking that they deserve other people's labor for free. Which takes me to my last thing. She called this an abomination. How do you think that you're ever going to get artists to work with you when you treat them like this? Or you don't have to hire this person, keep looking. But when you insult people like this, when you tell artists that they should beg, when you tell artists to stay in their lane, well, you steal from them and you don't stay in your lane, and you are open about encouraging people to rip them off. Why do you think people would not want to work with you? That's not a threat. It's because you're mean. Think about what it is that you're telling people to do. You won't get anywhere with this sort of behavior. Anyone who creates or most artists who see this kind of behavior are going to see it as dishonesty and insults, and who would want to work with somebody who thinks so little of them? Because looking at this person, I wouldn't want to work with her either because of how little she thinks of not just writers, but of all of my peers. We see even more entitlement by coming down here to the comments, where the more recent comment is 99% of graphical artists won't even reply to me. I started to use AI for my covers. A cover is just a cover. I'm writing a book for months and months. Just visual artists think that they are above authors. No, this author thinks that he is above visual artists to the point that he can steal from them. I'm going to bet that 99% of visual artists have not ignored you, unless number one, you were rude in your interest of commissioning, and number two, were you trying to commission somebody that you can't possibly afford? Is that a possibility at all? But a cover is just a cover. Your words are just words. If you're going to talk about other artists that way, I've got no respect for you. You get to the next person that's underneath that. It says, what really torques me off is the anti-AI folks for the man-chest photographer and the fantasy artist who leads the pack get paid for their work. Well, there is no guarantee that the author is going to make even a slave wage for the efforts and the money that they've laid out to get their book published. Yes, because you own the product. You are the one with the investment in your product. So you are asking for these services of others so that you can sell your product. Others do not have to invest in your product as you have to invest in your product. So by going, well, why do I not get paid? Why do they get paid, but I don't get paid? Because it's your job to sell your product. And by pretending that other people should put the liability of their wages on you is ridiculous. And that's what it comes down to, is these people are greedy. They only care about themselves, and it's about a quick turnaround and quick money. And that's as far as that goes. So this video doesn't feel like it's a defense of generative AI as book covers, nor a defense of the indie community. And it kind of pisses me off that she pretends that this is a defense of indie authors against bullying. It's not. It actually feels more like an attempt to court the gig workers who use generative AI to sell her services to, because she's saying, look, I'm on your side. I hate the same political people as you. I have given the notes of exactly how we're on the same team. Don't I look right? Am I not saying the right things while acting as if this is in defense of indie authors? What this actually does is insult indie authors and use us as a shield for the bad attitudes being perpetuated in this video. She doesn't get harmed by your using of a generative AI cover, but you do. She's still going to get paid for her editing services regardless, as long as you buy them. And then your book still goes up on the market and it's still your job to sell the book to get your money back. But as she said, you're probably not going to get that money back because it's an investment that you paid on a product that you can't prove. And if you're going to use a generative AI cover, you're going to be ignored by a majority of readers. That's not saying that all readers will ignore you, but your pool is going to be different. You'll lose that money when your book doesn't take off like you thought, and then you're going to be wondering why. If not, creating political brain rot arguments as to why your book failed.
This whole exchange just like enraptured for a full day on Twitter. How absolutely dare you presume to think that you get to talk to us like that? And what really chapped my
that you get to talk to us who is the us that you're talking about? Is it the right to market authors? Is it the gig workers? Because I don't know who you're talking about.
ass. Artists, you might be kind of mad at me, what I'm about to say. You're probably already mad at me. You're going to get madder. I don't care. What is a book cover? What is the function of a book cover? The function of a book cover is marketing. A book cover, a beautiful, well-drawn book cover says, excuse me, I think you might like me. Aren't I pretty? And then you, book buyer, whether you're in a physical shop or if you're online, you go, you are pretty. You look nice on Instagram. Do I like you? Let's find out. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. If you pick up that book or you click on it, that is the entire function of the cover. The click or the grab. That's it. Once that happens, the cover's job is done. Does the cover make you buy? I understand that if you're like,
yes, the cover makes you buy. Does this woman ever listen to people actually talking about books? I have purchased books entirely based on the cover and the title. That's it. Didn't read the blurbs, didn't read the interior, nothing but the title and the cover.
I want to be mean to social media influencers. There are some people who buy a book just for the cover because they want to have the aesthetic poster, they identify as a reader or whatever. But
I said I like the vibe of this, and so I would like to give it a chance. That's it. So her saying that the only reason that somebody might buy a cover is because it's pretty, so they want to show it off. No. I don't know if this person actually talks to readers, because there are so many that get books or keep books just because the covers are pretty. A cover is a work of art. And so I don't.
I feel like this is not the majority. I feel like this is a very small group. The majority of people who buy books, it's because they want to read them. So you get the grab.
Okay, so let's ask in the comments here. Not that this is going to be a big sample size, because there's never a very big sample size for any of this. But do you purchase a book based on the cover alone, or do you always just on the description? Because again, I'm going to reference Reads with Rachel's video that she did where she polled her audience, and the majority, if I recall correctly, made decisions based solely on the cover.
That's the function of the cover. We're done here. What sells the book? Tell me what sells it. You read a lot. What makes you decide to fork over $25 for a hardback or anything from $2.99 to $10.99 for an ebook? What makes you shell that money out? Tell me. It's the blurb.
Nope, it's the vibe of the cover and the genre. That's it. Because if I like the vibe, I figure I'm going to like the book. And then if I read the first chapter, it's usually up to the first page to impress me. But it's not the book. You have to convince people to keep reading. And people purchase books all the time because of the cover and hate the interior of the book. The interior of the book does not sell a book. I'm sorry, it just doesn't.
Isn't it? It's the blurb and then like the little intro that you look at. You flip through the book or you use the look inside feature. Does the blurb grab me?
I almost never read the look inside feature. The only time I use the look inside feature is when I know I'm not going to buy the book because I want to laugh at the inside of the book. Because it's such a garbage.
Does the writing speak to me? That's what gets the sale. You know, the content, not the cover. Adding on top of that.
Speaking of this, just this morning, I actually purchased a book. Not because of the cover, not because of the interior, but because of the topic. I have purchased a lot of books with nothing to do because of the interior.
What makes a book go viral? What makes a book just sing in the hearts of their readers, living rent-free? Oh my God, is there a sequel? When is the sequel coming out? You can't make me wait 2 years for this sequel. I am dying I'm so sorry, is that the cover doing that? No, it's what the author wrote in the book. Like,
Actually, I would like to correct the record on this. No successful book is made by a single person. It is made as a collaborative piece with the artist, with the person that does the interior, with the audience, and possibly with the readers, the beta readers, the ARC readers, all of it. All of these people contribute to the success of a book. The best books, none of them are made by singular people. And so what she is saying and pretending that artists do not do any of the work, artists work with you to capture the feeling of your characters, of your books, of the vibe that you're trying to get readers to pluck into and to give you something that people are happy to show off. So yes, artists play a very big role in making the success of a book. Maybe they don't write the story, and I'm not trying to say that they write the story, but this woman is trying to say that artists play no part in the success of a book, and they actually do. It's not a singular thing. And I think that one of the worst things that I've seen in general with the writing community, or the communities in general that are just like full of the posturing and full of the politics, is that everything is about me. Everything is a selfish campaign. Everything is self-focused, and it makes interactions, it makes the community worse. It makes it harder to actually have discussions because everything comes down to me, 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 me. You're getting in my way. Where is my money? How do I get my thing? Who do you think you are to say that you helped me at all? Why didn't you help? Why didn't you help me? We know that you didn't help me because you hate me. Like, that's what everything comes down to. And it's so aggressive and it's so unnecessary. And it is also such a lie. Nobody has to do anything on their own. And when you continually press that somebody has to do everything on their own, like with this, you encourage the theft because you're telling people that they are stuck on their own. She's also used, you're going to be alienated. You're already going to be on your own. So why not just do what you got to do for yourself and screw everybody else? And that's not being a good writing community citizen. That's not being a good member of the writing community or to your peers. And that is an important part of being a writer. Networking is important. And the way that you treat other people, the way that you treat other people in your industry and your readers is going to affect how people feel about you and if they want to help you. And if you just keep slapping people in the face, then they're not going to want to work with you. No, they're not going to want to elevate you. They're going to respond to you. So doing this, I don't see how it's going to help anybody. It's just being aggressive and it's shutting doors.
like I said, AI generated text is not the same thing as an AI generated cover. Because they're not buying a painting, sir. They're buying a book. The book that tells them a story, that lives in their heart, that lives in their brain, and that makes them a better person, because that is the function of fiction.
That's wrong. Oh my gosh. The function of fiction is to make you a better person? I guess that people that support generative AI need to read more fiction so that hopefully they can become better. Like, what is this take? Fiction does not have to make you a better person. Tell me how a little life makes you a better person. Please. Now, some fiction does set out to inform or to inspire, but not all does. That is such a crazy statement to make.
The book, the content, the story, the characters, not the pretty picture on the front. Artists, you...
Why does she hate artists so much? That's like all I'm getting from this video is seething at artists. And maybe it has to do with the reference to the blue hair at the very beginning where she assumes what all artists are and who all artists are. But like, this is just seething with hatred for artists. Is it because she's jealous? Is it because she has no idea or no ability to create, period? Like, what is this?
Are a part of the book marketing community. And you're valuable. If that hasn't come across, I apologize. I am a little heated.
Yeah, it did not come across at all. All I'm getting from this, maybe that means that the approach to this needs to be fixed some, because all I'm getting is massive hatred to the point that, like, I don't know who this... So I've never watched any of this person's videos. This was the first exposure that I had specifically because it's generative AI related. And all that I get from this is seething hatred for creative people, period. Because she also insulted writers earlier in this. This comes off as treating artists as if they are disposable, as if they are worthless, as if they should be replaced because they don't work slave labors enough. I'm just, who does she think she's talking to? Because if she wanted to convince artists to agree with her, continually insulting artists, I'm gonna say hot take right now, continually insulting artists is probably not the best strategy.
Valuable. And frankly, it wouldn't be effective, I think.
You're valuable because the generative AI covers wouldn't exist without your work.
if we just all sold books with Times New Roman 12-point font on the cover. I don't think that anybody would do as well as they're doing now if that was the case. Cover art is important, very, regardless of your genre. But I say this to you kindly. Know your role and stay in your lane.
Oh my gosh. Know your role and stay in your lane? Yeah, the role includes, how about not stealing? Like, if somebody breaks into my house and steals my stuff, you don't freaking imagine the thief turning around and going, stay in your, are you a cop? They freaking stay in your lane. Know your role and stay in your lane?
Your job as a cover artist is to communicate to the buyer that they might like this, but they might not. There is many a beautiful cover that I have picked up and said, ooh, what's this about? Read the back and said, oh, that's not for me. Boo, put it back. Or pick it up, beautiful cover, read the blurb. Ooh, that might be for me. Look in. Oh my God. Oh no, 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 no. This is atrocious. Who let this be published? I reject this book. I genuinely wish that I had used the look inside function for Fourth Wing before I bought it. I regret that. I regret it so much. The worst part about this whole exchange.
Are you telling me that you purchased off of the cover alone? So they did their job? Like, that is the ideal. Let's be real. That is the ideal for any author. I mean, granted, majority of us want people to read our stories, to like our stories, to enjoy our stories and characters and talk to us about them. But also, if you make that sale, that's what the author wants. The author wants the sale.
Exchange that happened on Twitter was the multiple authors who posted things like, why do I even bother writing then? If it doesn't matter what I write, it only matters about who I work with and the quality of the cover art. And I'm going to get blackballed if I don't pay $1,000 for it. Why am I even doing this?
So it's all about the money? That's not what was being said. And if you boil it down to that's what's being said, then you're either not fully using a full functioning brain or you're being disingenuous.
Should I quit? I'm not going to show the particular author's tweet because he was genuinely very disheartened. Because this person does not have a lot of money, and like a lot of us, he doesn't make a lot of money from the books he has out. One of
BT dubs. I guess theft is now just justified in any case because you could just say, but I don't have a lot of money. Like, I don't have a lot of money, so I just stole that TB. Like,
which I have read and is a good book. And his cover is good too, but it was very text heavy because that's what he could afford. This man didn't use AI, but he also couldn't afford an artist of the caliber bitching at him, telling him he was wrong. I don't care.
I can't believe that this is so disrespectful. Look, she's saying that she doesn't mean to say that she hates writers, or she said it like 2 seconds ago, that she doesn't mean to seem like she hates artists. And then she says, if you complain about being stolen from, then you're bitching. And you need to stay in your name and know your role.
If you personally don't like or don't want to use AI. Like I said, I don't use it in my covers. My artist that I pay money to doesn't use it in his covers that he makes for me. I don't use AI in text unless I am being paid to do so as a service provider. And even then, I still tweak it to make sure that it's good for the client paying me money.
Oh, you have to say that because you're selling a service. But a 7 to 10 day turnaround, you're making product.
That's my choice. Your choice may be different. And if
Yes, so she's talking about making choice. So you can make your choice to disregard whoever you want, to murder whoever you want, to steal from whoever you want. And everybody around you can say, I don't want to be associated with that behavior. And I know a bunch of people that are also not going to want to associate with that behavior. I've had to remove people from my Discord server whom I couldn't trust to not steal art and shove it into an AI generator. I've had people that I did trust take the art that I commissioned and then shove it into an AI generator. I can't trust people that do this.
If you make a different choice, I swear, by thee I forswear, I will not be allowing anyone to 1-star review bomb you because they don't like your cover. I will not tolerate any shenanigans or dogpiling on social media. Ew, she uses AI, nobody buy her books. I hope you have the courage of your convictions, because that's not something I'm going to sit still for. Being an author is hard. Selling books to the right audience and finding that audience is hard. It's also expensive. If you're going to shell out a lot of cash, if you're going to get a second job to pay for your publishing journey, guess what, folks? Let me tell you where it needs to go. It needs to go to a good copywriter so you can get a bang-up blurb.
Is she selling her services now that she's like, well, look, if you're going to buy a cover, then you're going to need to hire me to do this thing and that thing and this thing.
And it needs to go to your writing and rewriting and editing process. So the actual text of your book, the story you're telling, is so good that your readers will be haranguing you for the next one. Because that's how we make our money, the writing. That's where your money should mostly go.
Not true actually, because you can make a lot of money by people literally just buying the book off of the cover, and then buying everything after that because they just like your cover and they might take time to get to your book.
Oh. So if you can afford a couple of $100 to do an artist, which I recommend, honestly, use someone who's out of America because they have a lower cost of living. Exchange labor with a friend if you happen to be friends with an artist. That's fantastic. You do not have to spend $1,500 to make book sales. And until you're very well established, you shouldn't. It's a bad business decision. Every time. You will not make that money back. don't do it. Do whatever you need to do to make a clickable or grabbable book cover for the story that you have written. If that means an artist, do that. If you have artistic talent yourself, do that. If you want to use AI and you're good at prompting and you have the time to sit there and make it good, then do that. I support you, as long as your book is good. And if it's not, I can help you make it better. And if
Bro, she's literally hucking. This is literally a 20-minute ad for her copywriting business. As she says, BT dubs, you should just, if you don't have thousands of dollars for a cover, like, you're not going to make it back. That's insane to me. So 10 seconds ago, she just said, don't spend this money if you're an unestablished author because you're never going to make it back. And then she says, come and hire me for hundreds to thousands of dollars to edit your manuscript. As she just said, you're never going to make that money back. Oh.
you want a little more guidance on how to make a good book cover, however you make it, I have another video that you might want to watch about how to make your cover not suck. And then you get to look at my cover journey going from...
Didn't she just say that she sucks at composition? So, like, why would you take why would you take the advice from somebody who earlier in this video said that she has zero artistic talent and she cannot possibly do this? There are better places to learn about art. There are better places to learn about art and covers and all of this. But this just looks like a business pitch at this point. She says that it's okay to steal from people. She spends the whole video shit-talking artists and telling artists that they suck and telling artists that they need to stay in their lane. And if you're going to tell artists they need to stay in their lane, then writers need to stay in their lane and not steal from artists and not cosplay as artists by stealing, by taking their art through generative AI and paying the companies in Silicon Valley, having done that middleman work. The majority of her comments, by the way, are all in her favor. So if she complains about being some kind of victim to something, at least on here, everybody is in her corner. Because it's a bunch of authors that want to make money. So they agree with her. But here, Kristen, you made good points. If I were an artist who opposed AI art, I think the most rational approach would be to simply compete in the marketplace rather than bitching about it. As an author, I don't feel threatened by anyone who wants to use AI in their writing. So this is something that I've covered previously in here. Number one, you can't really speak for others if you're not part of their industry that is currently suffering from it, that is also being stolen from. Number two, AI, I'm not personally, because I've covered this before as well, personally, I'm not afraid of generative AI being something that will replace what is made by people, because people make better stories. They tell better stories. There is no way to get around that. However, you can be buried in the marketplace by the generative one-click buttons that are going to go up there. People are not going to find you. And then the lump of trash that has buried you is going to become so big and so common that people will no longer purchase from indie authors because they can't trust that indie authors are not all using generative AI. So it does affect you and your reputation, whether or not you see it. So that is the video. There was so much more garbage in there than I was really even expecting. What's mostly upsetting is that people do this and then they sell their wares at the insult to others and say, you should pay me for my thing, but don't pay those people for their thing. Like, don't even bother with those people over there. They don't care about you. They hate you. And that's ultimately what this set up is. It's set up that artists are against you, and it's set up that artists are underneath you. And I'm going to tell you right now, and this is not a threat, this is a warning, that if you treat people as if they are below you, if you are this mean, if you are this dismissive, if you are this disgusting to somebody because they specialize in something different than you, if they don't want to be stolen from, if you disrespect their opinions this much, not even their opinions, but their livelihoods this much, they're not going to want to work with you. The behavior that I saw in this video was absolutely disgusting, from the way that she had her voice and her flinging around finger to the point of just, there's nothing but an emotional response in this. And that's all my opinion. I wouldn't want to work with this person based on this personality, and I would never actually want anything to do with her, period. That's just how it is once you put your opinion out there, especially when it is such a hot, not only a hot take, but it is built on meanness and selfishness and exploitation. And I know that I can expect those kinds of comments from AI bros as normal in the comments down below. So if you want more of my AI hot takes and the storylines that I've been on for the last couple of, and the trails that I've been on for the last couple of, and the trail of following generative AI information that I've been on for the last year and a half, there's going to be there's a playlist at the end of this, or you can head over to my channel page to find it. What do I want to say? Think about what you're saying. Think about how you're treating other people. In this video, is nothing but disrespectful. So why would you be surprised when people don't want to interact with you when you act like this? Will it help me get the point across if I wave my finger at you? Or did that just kind of shut you off to the idea? With that said, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below on anything in the video today. With that said, have a good weekend and don't die.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out? The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross. Is he in trouble? We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him. Cross isn't a killer. For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die. Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Why? Did you do that? To the left, plain black letters read along the wall. You walked in the corridor. Once that ends, you chose the dark is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me. Where the hell am I? You're dead, Josephine. Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?